guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 6 on DraftKings is here, and I'm going to go over an NFL DFS lineup for you, but based around our tournament rules with a double stack and a bring back. We're going to try and find a secondary stack, and this is a very interesting week as there is one very obvious route that everybody is going to want to go with the Bills squaring off against the Chiefs, and everybody's going to remember the playoff game where they scored 412 total combined points in that game, and Gabriel Davis scored 48 touchdowns, and both quarterbacks are elite and everything else. So I'm going to build you a lineup that's a little bit different from that one because it would have been almost been too easy for me to just go right to that one. So I'm doing something a little bit different with this one. And we're going to take a look at the running backs, the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, and everything else. So let's go.
He's a legend.
The recap video where I go over everything that happened in week 5 is available on Al Smizzle Fantasy Football. You can just go to smizzle.tv/ff. It'll take you right there. It will also be that link right down below in the pinned comment. Be sure that you go check out the recap video to get the shout outs from the top 10 that finished in the Smizz Gang Listener League, the cage match results, my cash game lineup from last week, how I did, tournament lineups, Millionaire Maker, and everything else. It is right over there on Al Smizzle Fantasy Football, so please subscribe to that channel. I come out with 5 videos a week over there. You cannot miss all of the content, so head over to Al Smizzle Fantasy Football because I needed that spillover channel as well. The Smizz Gang Listener League is up for week 6. It is still 5,500 people. It is a $10 entry fee. There are $55,000 in prizes. There is still absolutely no rake. This is going to fill on Saturday. If you try to log in on Sunday morning, you are not going to get a seat. It may fill overnight on Friday. I would highly suggest either putting in 3 dummy lineups into this immediately. Go to smizzle.tv/links. You will find the link there. It is not a lobby game. You cannot find this link in the lobby. It will be down below in the pinned comment. It is also down below in the description if you click show more. Go to smizzle.tv/links if you would rather just type it yourself, and make sure that you get into the listener league today. I would suggest first going to rewards, then missions. Click a mission a day and collect 3 missions for your 3 entries to the Smizz Gang Listener League, so that you can maximize, because it's already a rake free league, but if you maximize the amount of crowns and missions, it's actually a negative rake league. You're going to get paid to play in the Smizz Gang Listener League. See, we're out here figuring stuff out. Smizz thanks in the chat. Let's start with the quarterbacks. Very obviously and right up top, Josh Allen traveling to Kansas City. The Bills are 2.5 point favorites in this one. The total here is 53.5. I would probably bet that all of the money is going to be bet on the over in this one because everybody's going to remember A, what happened last year, B, how good these teams are this year. Josh Allen registering a 30+ point DraftKings day on 4 of the 5 games so far. Patrick Mahomes playing on Monday night, so we don't have his week 5 stats, but a 37.9 game in week 1, 24.5 last week against Tampa Bay, throws touchdowns to any random tight end that exists on his team, the 5 deep tight ends that they have on that team, with Travis Kelce being the number 1 guy getting the majority of the work, and then everybody else kind of filing in for a lot of work below them. These are going to be the 2 most popular pay-up quarterbacks on this slate. And then Lamar Jackson, he's been pretty good himself, but like coming off of 2 kind of meh type games, right, where he hasn't really scored a rushing touchdown, hasn't thrown for a lot of yards. Bateman out for this game. Everything kind of had to go through Mark Andrews against Cincinnati in a matchup with 2 divisional opponents. Like, those games do tend to be a little bit lower scoring. Cincinnati's defense performing actually pretty well this year. They want to be a running team, and the Ravens want to be a passing team, and now they square off against the Giants, whose defense should not be able to stop him. Paying up at quarterback has been kind of a thing, but when you come down from those $8,000, $8,200, $8,400 quarterbacks to Kyler Murray at $7,300, Kyler finally starting to run the ball a little bit more, and I think that we're going to see this offense take a little bit more of a move forward, a step forward, but that's going to start in week 7 when they get DeAndre Hopkins back. They're finally getting back healthy and off suspension, with Rondale Moore now back manning the slot. AJ Green is outside and opposite Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown's been outstanding so far this year, but when you get Nuke Hopkins back on the other side and they're a fully functional battle station, I think that Kyler Murray's best days are going to come between week 7 and week 13, just because a quarterback can be an elevator of talent, but wide receivers more greatly affect a quarterback's efficiency because of their ability to get open and make plays after the catch. So when he gets better play at wide receiver, as he did get with Rondale Moore coming in for Greg Dortch, who did fine, but Rondale Moore, a more dynamic athlete, moving him into the slot and then replacing AJ Green, who's done as good as he can possibly do on the outside. He's just not as talented as he was earlier in his career. Now we have a situation where he's going to get two really prime athletes and then Rondale Moore running around in the slot with Zach Ertz performing pretty well so far this year. I think we could see Kyler Murray have some really bounce weeks, some really 30-plus weeks moving forward. This game against Seattle, total is 51.5. It's the second highest total on the slate being played in Seattle. Cardinals favored by 2.5 in this one. Coming down the board a little bit, Tom Brady off of a 350-yard game and a 385-yard game now gets Pittsburgh, who gave up about 1,050 passing yards last week, to Josh Allen, and has all of his wide receivers back. Now, Chris Godwin did not play a lot of snaps in the second half of that Week 5 win against Atlanta when they were up a couple of touchdowns. It looks like that was more of a precautionary move. He also should have had one more touchdown pass last week. And the lack of that, as it was not overturned by the referees, Mike Evans was clearly inside of the pylon, and they did not give it to him. A 29-point week followed by almost a 27-point week would have surely pushed Tom Brady up, but he didn't get pushed up. He's only at 6,300. Remains a really good value in this spot. 8-point favorites over the Steelers. Really high team total for the Buccaneers at 25.5. You kind of want to target quarterbacks who have team totals at 24 or above, and or have really truncated targets, right? Like, guys, they're only going to throw it to a certain amount of guys. So like if Tua is back this week, and right now they're down to their third string quarterback, Tua has only a couple of guys that they throw it to. It goes to Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and then there's a massive drop off in terms of market share of targets. Same thing with Matthew Stafford, who has not been performing well, mostly because of that offensive line. But all of his targets are basically going to Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee right now. That's where all of the targets are going. So when they throw the ball, you know where it's going to end up. And the other guy on that list has been Geno Smith. Geno Smith has been putting up some really solid numbers here for Seattle. Now squares off against an Arizona defense that has been extremely giving, specifically in first halves. And if Seattle can attack this, if Arizona can attack this Seattle defense and start putting points on the board, that's going to mean that this game, already with the second highest point total on the slate, can very possibly shoot out. And the reason I'm going with Geno Smith this week as our quarterback is because I really highly expect Ken Walker III to be one of the chalkiest running backs on the slate. They're at home, though they are underdogs. He is 5,400 and was splitting time with Rashad Penny, who now is out for the season with a broken leg. And everybody's going to go after him because he's 5,400. However, and it's Monday, so like who knows what the percentage is going to be by the weekend. I'm sure that everybody's going to twist and turn. The percent ownership columns on every single projection set, like across the industry, have noticed there are a lot of problems with them having heavy correlation and being correct this year versus previous years. People are getting smarter. People are fading chalk. People are jumping onto lower played players, and just those algorithms have not been tuned up to the point where they can catch up to everything else. Now, Walker was somebody who was not used in the passing game pretty much at all in college and was used more in the first 3 weeks of the season that he was healthy than was Penny, who has never had a game where he had more than like 2 catches, and Walker has had 3 and 2 in part-time work. Now he's going to be the full-time guy and ran for a very nice 69-yard touchdown last week. That is going to stick in everybody's mind moving forward. So I'm going to go with a Geno double. And as I said before, Geno is only really throwing the ball to 2 guys. One of them, DK Metcalf, with 30 targets in the last 3 games, 2 touchdowns in the last 3 games, a 50-yard catch in the last 2 games, 17.4 or more DraftKings points. Easy click there. And Tyler Lockett has been a cash game smash for like 3 straight weeks, 4 straight weeks, and I don't think that's going to change. How has his price not moved? This baffles me. So like we see prices moving on DraftKings a lot, and 11 targets. He got 4 targets week 1, and he jumped from 5K to 5,600. Fine. Week 1, everybody is 10 to 20% underpriced. That is just week 1 pricing for DraftKings, right? So like week 2 was 5,600. So the order goes salary to targets, right? So like the salaries get posted and then the games get played. He got 11 targets. All right, let's bump him up. 5,800, he had 22 points. So we'll kick him up a little bit. 5,800, 11 targets, 16 points. We'll bump him up another 100. 5,900, 14 points, 8 targets, scores 14 points. Then he gets priced at 5,600. His price came down, scores 2 touchdowns. His price stays at 5,600. Now, we don't want to rely on touchdowns when it comes to DraftKings scoring. We want guys that can get there on volume, right? So like obviously 11, 22, 30, 36 targets in the last 4 weeks. If I told you that Tyler Lockett was going to average like 9 targets a game and it's going to be 5,600, he was one of the highest played cash game wide receivers last week, comes back into a situation where he is going to man the slot and stay away from anybody that Arizona might have that could be able to cover him, even though they don't have anybody that can really cover him. And now he gets to just run around. Excuse me? None of this makes any sense. So like he's an absolute free click as well because of the target floor and offense that runs straight through Geno Smith to these two. They have been one of the most efficient offenses that has existed in the league. Here, I'll open up a little tweet for you, okay? So, like, I asked Rich Rebar who the top 5 offenses were so far this year in terms of highest yards per play on first and second down. Seattle, number 1. Then Detroit, 6.6. Buffalo, Philly, Baltimore. These 3 are really good offenses, and Seattle is putting them to shame. Going beyond that, Seahawks yards per play. On the first down, 6.3 yards, 6th in the league. Second down, 7.7, 1st in the league. Third down, 6.7, 4th in the league. They've been so ridiculously efficient so far this season that it makes a little bit absurd. Now, it's Monday and we don't know where these injuries are going to go at running back, okay? So there's our double stack. Geno to 2 guys. Taylor, if he plays, then you know that he's going to get a ton of work. He's ripped up Jacksonville historically. They are feeding him 20 to 25 touches or opportunities every single week. He is stellar, even though that offensive line is not. If he does not play, that brings us down to that sub 6K range where there is just a cornucopia of potential players. Top players on this slate, we're going to go to the 5-box running backs on the Tuesday video. Saquon Barkley playing at home, not favored, 7,700, leading the league in pretty much like everything at the running back position. He's been phenomenal. Aaron Jones also has been pretty damn good on about 70% of the running back snaps and touches for Green Bay. They get the New York Jets this week. Dalvin Cook playing less snaps, getting a really low amount of targets, like 6% of the target market share. I need to see that bumped up right now. He's like reaching Nick Chubb levels in terms of usage, Derrick Henry levels in terms of usage, where he's only just going to carry the ball, but not getting the amount of snaps that either of those two guys get, and does not have the big playability that either of those two guys have. So he's kind of becoming more of a dangerous play at running back, where he's more touchdown dependent than some of the other guys that are priced less than him, like Leonard Fournette, who is getting a ton of usage in the passing game. 6, 7, 11 targets, picking up right where he left off last year, even on diminished snaps down to like 60, 65% of snaps. The last 2 weeks, 18 targets the last 2 weeks. That's the type of usage that you want out of a running back. Joe Mixon, leading the league in terms of inside the 5 carries, has not capitalized on them yet. Touchdown regression is certainly coming his way. And you know that they want to feed him the ball a ton, and getting way better usage in the passing game than Dalvin Cook is for less money. A couple of other guys that we can focus on really quickly. As long as San Francisco is going to be playing from ahead, you're going to get more than 15 touches, almost 20, from Jeff Wilson Jr. As long as he can stay healthy. Produced a 23.2 point fantasy game last week. Ramondre Stevenson. Now we're getting into the 6K range. This is where we're somewhat interested. Cleveland has been giving up yards in chunks to opposing running backs, and Ramondre Stevenson, as soon as Bill Belichick loses toys, specifically at running back, that's when you want to jump on. When they went down to only having 2 running backs, lost Ty Montgomery, Ramondre played about 50%, and Damian Harris played about 50%. Damian Harris left last game with an injury. Monitor that situation as the week goes on, because if Ramondre Stevenson is the main guy and he gets 60 to 75% of the running back snaps and touches. Notice I'm not projecting for over 80% because Bill's going to Belichick. That's just what he does. But 6K is way too cheap for that specific role in this offense. Ramondre Stevenson, a very talented runner. I'll plug him in at 6K, but look at everything else that's available down here. Singletary at 5.9. Breece Hall coming off of a massive week and now going up against Green Bay, who gave up a ton of points to Saquon Barkley. wresting the job from Michael Carter, and hopefully he stops falling down on the 1 yard line and getting vultured by Michael Carter. Still under 6K. Absurd. Raheem Mostert moving into a #1 job in this Miami Dolphins offense, taking snaps away from Chase Edmonds, whose snap percentage has fallen every single week. Mostert's has risen every single week. Very solid play for him there. J.K. Dobbins getting healthier. Ken Walker III, who I said is probably going to be chalked. Deion Jackson in the case that JT is out, is going to be the main guy for the Indianapolis Colts, but there are more injuries, which is opening up possibly Eno Benjamin either as a secondary running back with Williams and very possibly Connor, who both left last game. Eno Benjamin took over all the second half snaps. Way better in the passing game, very explosive. Can't maintain that sort of usage for the entire season, but if both of those two backs are out, Eno Benjamin is and should be extremely popular in this offense based on the almost free price. Stone minimum at running back on DraftKings is like $4,500, $4,600 for Eno Benjamin in this situation as a bring back player for this Seattle double stack. It's not free, but like it's close. Now, I don't want to ignore the Buffalo Kansas City game. Wide receiver, you can go wherever you want. You guys know that I use quarterbacks to get to the wide receivers that I want. In the case that Isaiah McKenzie can't shake free of this concussion and get cleared the next week, and you don't know how long concussions are going to take to recover from, so monitor that situation. Khalil Shakir becomes a very tasty if-then statement for week 6. If McKenzie is out, Khalil Shakir at 3,700 is a click. And as we talked about right before this video, I like to pay up at tight end. And where am I going to go to bring this back other than Travis Kelce? Obviously, the Monday Night Football game is an unknown, but I can only assume that Travis Kelce will still continue to lead the Chiefs in terms of target market share, with over 25% of the targets coming from Travis Kelce, or coming from Patrick Mahomes, headed Travis Kelce's way. In the most probable shootout, in the most predictable high dollar spend up spot, we'll have to monitor what his pay up potential is, what his projected ownership is going to be. But like Travis Kelce being 2,800 more than that next tier, Andrews is at 7K, and then it goes down to 51, 49, and everybody else. Travis Kelce, the highest percentage tight end in terms of 25 to 30 point plus DraftKings days. Mark Andrews right behind him. That leaves us with 4,900. There's been one offensive line that we've wanted to pick on, and we like to pay down at defense. So the Panthers go to Los Angeles to play the Rams, and the 5 holograms that are trying to protect Matthew Stafford. He was pressured on like about 50% of his passes last week. So sure, they fired Matt Rule. This defense is going to be all fired up. Let's see if they can get in there and get a little pressure, a little sacks, a little something on that offense, which leaves us with 7,400 for a flex. You can pay for basically whatever you want. You want Leonard Fournette in this spot? Go for it. You want Marquise Brown in this spot instead of Eno Benjamin? Go for it. Or with him because you think that game fully shoots out. You want to go double tight end? I probably wouldn't do that, but it's on the table. Mike Evans, fine. I'm going to plug in Uncle Lenny in this spot because I still think that the usage is very, very good, and they are massively favored, and he is getting a ton of usage in the passing game. So Geno Smith, Ramondre, Eno Benjamin, DK Metcalf, Lockett, double stack, bringing it back. With that Eno at running back, Shakir, Kelce as my secondary stack, Leonard Fournette in a one-off. Go with whoever you want there, and a cheap defense leaves us with 0 salary. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and look out for another one right there.
He's a legend.